I mean, this shouldn't have happened. Shouldn't happen to anybody.
The tragic news of the death of Rayanne and Stephen Gruver's 18-year-old son Max came with a phone call.
They said they had worked on Max for 45 minutes, but there was nothing they could do.
It's the worst call anyone could ever get.
You never expect it.
It was September 14th. Police say hours earlier, Gruver was at Louisiana State University's Phi Delta Theta House, participating in a hazing ritual where older students make pledges who don't answer questions about the fraternity correctly drink alcohol. Max had a blood alcohol level of 0.495%.
6 times the legal limit.
Yeah, and that was the next day. So that night, I'm sure it was enough to kill you.
A few weeks later, 10 current and former members of that fraternity arrested. According to officials, they are potentially facing charges ranging from misdemeanor hazing to felony negligent homicide.
Was your son murdered?
Yes, I believe so. Nobody can physically drink that much. You can't. You have to be forced to drink it. It's senseless.
It's terrible.
I mean, how is making your brother do all these things and humiliating somebody a brotherhood? How does that bond you? That's what I just don't understand.
The irony was that the Gruvers had done something that many parents of kids in college don't do.
You were parents who also investigated and didn't just say, sure, join a fraternity. Tell me what you did. You did a lot of due diligence.
We went on the computer. We looked up on their national chapter. There was
No hazing.
No hazing, and it was an alcohol-free house.
And we thought that's great.
And we're like,
That's
great.
awesome.
Like, Max really did a good job. We were hook, line, and sinker. Like, our son made a great decision with this fraternity.
What they weren't aware of? 2 complaints to the school made by a concerned student and an alumnus nearly a year before Max's death. Reports that some members of that fraternity were excessively drinking, using drugs, and hazing pledges. Following an investigation by the university, the fraternity was only given a 1-month suspension in 2016.
Did you know of any past complaints about that fraternity?
No, because if we had found out just a year ago a fraternity had had a hazing incident, we might be like, with Max, like, I don't know that this is the one for you.
They offer this advice to other parents.
If you're thinking about a fraternity, ask around about them. Don't look at their marketing pieces because they're showing you all the positives there. Ask older students, ask kids that have been around that school for a long time.
But they did believe LSU was the right school for their son. This photo showing them dropping Max off at school together for the last time.
Little did I know. I actually have a picture of the last hug.
After Max's death, Phi Delta Theta said it wants the authorities to prosecute those responsible to the fullest extent of the law. And a spokesperson from LSU told ABC News that after Max's death, the fraternity was placed on interim suspension by the university, and that later the fraternity's national organization revoked the charter at LSU. The university also created a Greek life task force to review the culture and environment present on LSU's campus in order to highlight best practices and eliminate any negative or potentially harmful behavior. The potential charges facing the 10 former fraternity brothers are pending a grand jury.
You have 10 people who've been arrested on a pretty minor crime, maximum of 30 days in jail, but one of them with a serious crime where he could face up to 5 years. I think there needs to be a much better job done of reminding freshmen in college that hazing can be criminal.
ABC News reached out to attorneys for the arrested young men. Some didn't respond, others declined to comment at this time. But the defense attorney for the student potentially facing the negligent homicide charge told us in a statement, "I can't imagine the pain that Mr. and Mrs. Gruver must be going through. I think we should let the grand jury hear all of the evidence, apply the law, and render the decision." And a lawyer for another student told us his client was hardly present at the house that night.
Whose responsibility is it ultimately? Is it the university? Is it the chapters? Is it both?
I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
And then I think even at the state levels, some states have where you can call 911 and not get in trouble if you're in that situation, because they shouldn't be trying to cover it up, hide it, not call, let's see what he does.
And Rayanne and Stephen created these purple bracelets to remind kids to speak up when they see excessive drinking. They say it's already helped save lives.
What's your message to students?
That they need to step up if they see something is wrong. feel empowered. You could possibly be saving somebody's life.
They say they draw strength from an essay Max wrote when he was 15 years old. They found it in his room after he had passed.
And he says, you know, God works in funny ways, and sometimes he does bad to ultimately create good.
He wrote that.
He wrote that. And so that's given us a lot of strength.
Yes, a lot.
And perseverance to really try to create change.
Also helping Rayanne and Stephen through this dark time, a family with a tragically similar story. Evelyn and Jim Piazza lost their son Timothy last February. A Beta Theta Pi pledge at Penn State, Timothy was at a fraternity event where he allegedly participated in a drinking challenge called the Gauntlet.
They bring the pledges and make them drink copious amounts of alcohol really quickly.
Prosecutors say he consumed at least 18 drinks of beer, wine, and vodka, all in just an hour and 22 minutes.
It's awful how much of a coordinated effort that this crew kind of took upon themselves to get Tim and these other pledges so drunk.
Piazza eventually suffering a catastrophic fall, tumbling 15 feet down a flight of stairs. But according to a grand jury report, no one immediately called for help. And when someone finally did call 911, 12 hours after the fall.
What's going on today? We have a friend who is unconscious. He hasn't moved. He's cold extremity. It's probably in an ambulance.
It was too late.
He was all covered up with warming blankets. You were trying to find a spot of skin to touch. The nurse brought me forward and told me to kiss him goodbye. It was hard.
26 members of the Beta Theta Pi fraternity currently face charges connected to the incident. ABC reached out to all the defendants, and those that responded denied the charges. Piazza and Gruver, just 2 of the 4 young men who have died in alleged fraternity hazing incidents this year. The Gruvers say the parents of those young men have been a tremendous support for them as they cope with the unimaginable.
We'll say something to each other, like, I hate that we met this way, but I'm so happy we have each other, because they've guided me a lot, and just this a little amount of time. We've gotten very close.
For Nightline, I'm Amy Robach in Roswell, Georgia.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.